10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yo, 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 what's cracking all of our boggies out there? Welcome to episode. The El Pastor. Welcome to episode 19 of Your Brain. Oh, God. Man, you guys are in for a treat.
Treat.
Okay? A sweet treat because we had no idea what we were talking about. Well, we had a plan.
We did have an idea.
And then a spontaneous flow took over, and we started talking about all manner of stuff, about living authentic, about living in flow, about doing relationships in flow, about a whole bunch of amazing stuff that we're excited to share with you because I think it was actually a good conversation. So a little bit different for today, but we hope that you enjoy it. We hope that you're inspired by it, and we hope that you live a more full, authentic life with people, in front of people, and that you love people well because of this episode.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Get into it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Welcome,
Bam.
all of our boggies out there, to Your Brain on God. Hey, are you struggling sleeping? Do you wake up with night terrors in the middle of the night?
I do.
Do you struggle to have relationships that are top-notch, top quality, top-kiltered?
How did you know?
Well, you should call 1-800-YBOG, and we'll give you just what you need.
YBOG. YBOG?
YBOG. That's YBOG. YBOG stands for Your Brain on God. My goodness.
Oh my gosh. Aaron Russ. Sometimes the things that come out of your head.
Dude,
I just never know what to anticipate.
I really don't either.
It keeps life exciting.
You know what's something beautiful about not thinking ever? Is sometimes the most creative things that I have ever come out of, that I have ever come up with have been out of nothing. Like they
Ex nihilo.
Yes, they've been ex nihilo, like the Lord Jesus Christ created. Well, you said that wasn't biblical. Anyway, that's a different podcast. Different conversation. But yeah, I feel like when you let go of just needing to say anything right at all, you just say the right things.
When you let go of needing to say the right thing, you just say the right thing.
You just say the right things, you know? I think there's an aspect to getting your brain in sync with the spirit. And so whatever you say, it'll probably be all right, you know? I don't know.
No, I think there's some truth to that.
Right?
I think a lot of times we say things I don't know. So on one hand, I think that sometimes we say things that we didn't mean to say and we regret saying because we didn't think about it. But maybe if we were okay with not saying the right thing, we would have just said it the right way the first time.
Right.
Maybe trying to say it the right way stops us from saying it the right way.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But then also sometimes thinking through what you want to say sometimes helps you say it the right way.
Right. Like you ever get so caught up in your head you just don't even know what to say?
Yeah.
Like, or you say it all weird, or you say it all jumbled?
Yeah.
Unconfidently.
Yeah.
Is that a
Totally.
word? Unconfidently? Inconfidently?
Sure. Maybe it's not a word, but it's an experience.
That is true. And that's why we make words anyway.
That's
around
why
our
words
experiences.
are. That's why words exist.
They're arbitrary, man.
They are. Words are arbitrary. I don't know who you are or if you think differently. But words are arbitrary.
Hey, man, if you think that words are concrete, get over yourself.
There you go.
A big clap in the
background clap for that one.
No, but I think there's an aspect of, if you get, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get your heart straight, then you're going to speak from your heart. Mm-hmm. So if there's joy in your heart, if there's love in your heart, then probably what you're going to speak is going to be out of joy and out of love.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I think it was Gandhi, and I might have shared this with you before, Aaron. I think I did.
He always shares it with me about Gandhi.
Gandhi, man. What a guy Gandhi is.
Yeah.
Gandhi, when he was younger and doing his peace tours and everything, and talking to people.
Tour.
Yeah, he did a peace tour.
He did a worldwide tour, Gandhi.
When he would go like before councils of people and stuff, and like big rooms, and they'll have like debates on things. He would go in and he would talk about, what he believed in, and he wouldn't have any notes with him. And he would often be questioned as to why do you not have notes, or how do you even talk that long without having notes? And he says, I don't need notes because it's inside of me. When we do have it inside of our heart, I know that speaks to your heart, Aaron.
Yes, it does.
When it comes from our heart, we don't need the notes for it.
No.
Though I love having notes.
No, it's good.
I think it is helpful. But I think that's true. When we feel like we can't speak from our heart, and we are trying to like filter things and guard things, and then it comes out twisted,
Right.
It starts coming out in ways that aren't really true to what we feel or think,
right,
but we're trying to like shape it in a way we think might be the right way to say it.
Right. And then usually there's the relationship aspect too, where it's like you don't want someone else to think the wrong thing. So when you let go of that, it's weird. You end up saying the right thing. When you kind of let go of people's perceptions of you, or like understanding you in the right way, or you just say ridiculous things. I can't tell how many times like I've just said absolutely ridiculous things because I just don't care. But it's like one person who really, this is crazy. One person who really cares about what other people think can say one thing, and people are just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. You could say something and be free from what other people think, and it could be the same thing that person said, but you said it in a different light, and they'll love you for it.
People, man.
Hey, did that make sense at all? Did that make sense?
Yeah. I know. I was joking, but I think I know what you're saying. You're saying you could say the same. Two people could say the same thing,
right? And
you say it in different ways. Even if you say the same words, it'll be received differently.
Right.
That could be based on who you are. Or it could just be based on the way that you said it.
Right. I think it comes out of who you are, which is what Gandhi's talking about, which is speaking out of who you are, not like this, constructed, curated,
right, yeah,
bits of information. It was always strange, like at work, when I worked at Starbucks, people would get in trouble for the same things I did all the time. And seriously, no one
wasn't favoritism.
No one ever told me about it. Like, never told me it was like wrong or whatever. Like, okay, so I'm a very relational person, so I would just talk with people at the counter.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, no one ever really talked to me about it. They would actually, or even my manager, she would look at me, she would just like laugh or whatever. Someone else would do it, dude. Get back to work.
Dang.
Yeah, I had a way, dude.
Maybe you had a crush.
Maybe my manager, who was engaged, had a crush on me. Yeah. I hope not. Anyway. Well, she wasn't engaged at the time. This made me rethink everything. Right. Oh no. Should I say her name? I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I think there is an aspect, that's something that I try to model when I speak is, and I tell people that are preaching, if you don't get it in you, don't preach it. It's more than writing notes on a piece of paper. It's okay to have notes, but if those notes if you don't become your notes, I'm trying to make it sound really good, Darryl. If you don't actually become what you're writing down, or it doesn't actually align with who you are, then there's going to be a dissonance there. And no matter how good of a preacher you are, well, actually people are pretty good at hiding it. But I think even in the spirit, there's like, there could be a dissonance or something.
Sometimes you can feel, sometimes it feels like it. I guess you can't really, as a listener, you might not actually be able to know for certain.
Right.
If you don't know the person who's speaking.
I don't know.
But you can kind of feel sometimes when it's like, that doesn't feel authentic.
Right. Yeah. You can kind of feel it. But there's a lot of people that, a lot of, preachers, pastors, we all know pastors who are great preachers, but are doing something behind closed doors that maybe aren't really following their things, and they're just very good at hiding it.
They have a communication skill,
a communication skill. So you can't tell every time, I guess. But yeah, it is important to get inside you. This is what I love about Jesus is the idea that there was no dissonance between who he was and what he said.
Right. Completely congruent
with what he said, because he was the Word become flesh. So everything that he said, he was just speaking himself. Wait, Darryl.
Yes, no, he was speaking the truth. It's like it just
See what
came
I'm
from straight out
saying
of him.
though? I just say
Yeah,
these things. They sound good in my own mind, man. They really do.
No, I got you. No, for sure.
They really do. But yeah, he was speaking in congruence with himself.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So like there was no separation between him and what he said. And I think that's our goal as communicators, is that that's my heart, is that everything that I would speak would be congruent with who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that brings the wave of authority. And that's why when Jesus came on the scene, everybody was like, we never heard a guy talk like this before, because he's speaking in congruence with who he is. Which is crazy.
There wasn't anything that was not true in alignment with him, with himself.
Right.
You know, there was nothing that was twisted or trying to be presented a different way.
Right.
It just was what it was.
Right. And I wonder if Jesus had to really think about what he was saying, or if it did flow from, I mean, I'm sure he thought about things. Obviously, he had to study the scriptures. He had to get into the scriptures. Or was everything that he said, I mean, I guess this is just speculation, but everything he said just like, came out of who he was. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about Jesus. And this is a world of topic. I promise, guys, we are going to get into the topic that we have for today. But maybe this is the topic we have for today. I don't know. But if he could speak an unkind word, because like Jesus, I guess because he's God and because he became man, I guess he had the opportunity to speak wrongly or falsely, like he could sin, right?
Right.
Right.
Like
I guess
having
he
the
could
potential to sin.
Right, because if Satan could tempt him, then that means he had the potential to be tempted, which means he had the potential to choose differently than being aligned with the Father.
Yeah, and if he didn't have the potential to sin, then what is the where's the victory if there's no fight?
What does that mean?
Like how can there be significance in Jesus becoming man if he never had the experience of a human being,
or human being? Yeah.
And Hebrews says that he's tempted in every way that we were.
Right.
Which if you were to be tempted, I imagine you'd have to have you can't really be tempted on something you can't follow through with.
Right. So if Jesus couldn't sin, he couldn't even be tempted. Or I get what you're saying. Like, where's the victory at if he was never able to do that in the first place? It wasn't an option for him.
Yeah. What's the significance of God becoming man if God was just
right? Wow.
Still completely separate.
That's actually insane. That's actually insane.
A topic in one of my classes I took.
Really?
Yeah.
Whether or not Jesus could sin?
Talk about the humanity of Jesus.
Yeah. But anyway, all back to speech, I think, love God and say whatever you want. I'm just
So when he said something similar to that, right? When they're
Augustine,
what did he say?
he said, love God and do whatever.
Yeah, love God and do whatever.
For the most part, yeah.
Right. That's basically what he said.
But I think, I mean, it comes back to that. It's like, okay, I love what one of our pastors at our church said, James. He said, like, because the Bible talks about no one can tame the tongue, right? But he talked about but God can give you a new heart. And out of the mouth, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if God can give you a new heart, then it's not taming your tongue that really matters. It's getting a new heart. Right. And so if you, if you can get a new heart, then that can actually tame your tongue. So it is possible to tame your tongue, in that way. So, I mean, I definitely say stuff that's like stupid or hurtful, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, actually, I'm very sure. But I've definitely said some things that were hurtful and harmful. I'm saying more like a joking way or a ridiculous way. I'm saying I love mystery. Like, I love spontaneity. Like, when it comes to like singing out of the blue or making up songs out of the blue or improv, like I was pretty good at improv, or speaking off the cuff and not really having anything prepared. Some of my best things that I've ever done, preached, written a song about something or whatever, they've all come from some natural flow of just of spontaneity, what I mean? Like this combustion of spontaneity that is so beautiful to like capture and to hold on to, right?
Right.
And I mean, there's different ways of doing things. Some people preach very organized, and it's not bad to be spontaneous or to be organized or a mixture of both and stuff like that. I think there is value in both of those things. I just think a lot of times people want what is human. Right?
Yeah.
People,
totally.
we as humans like love things that are just like, because they make us go, wow. You know what I mean? When something just happens out of the blue, or things like work out without we love that. You know what I mean? Like when something unexpected happens or something, crazy happens like that, we love to say, wow, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when you see like a human operating in that, when they do improv or they come up with a song on the spot, it's like, how did that?
It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like I watched this, freestyle rapper Harry Mack or whatever on Instagram, and it's just like, whoa, like I'm just blown away by this guy because everything that he comes up with is just straight off of the top of his brain, and obviously he's like even developed an ability to do that like off top, but but it's just like this, I don't know, there's a lot of good things happen from just spur of the moment craziness,
I don't often choose to do spontaneous things. I'm wired differently. I feel like in spontaneity I slow down. Oh, I don't know if it's not like I can't do spontaneous things, but when I'm in an open space, I take things slowly. I feel like I operate more slowly. Like if I were to join like an improv team, I don't know how well and how quick I'd pick up on things.
You have to be quick-witted.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just take life at a slower pace. Usually, whenever but in regards to freedom, I think that still is true. The authenticity that comes through when somebody's not trying to box everything and create everything, make it curated and perfect. The authenticity that comes through, is still what's the valuable thing. We find so much value in the authenticity of connecting with somebody, because that's where true connection happens, is in the authenticity. Right. You could have two people speaking. One person could be really thought out and crafted. But if they don't seem authentic, then there's not really a connection you have with the person speaking. But if you have someone who's just completely free, going free with it and has no structure to what they're going to do, they don't have it planned. But if they're being authentic, there's something that grabs us in those moments. And I, whenever I process things, I usually will be writing, and it's in my writing that I find a lot of what's inside of me just coming out onto paper. Right. If I were to try to speak that out and be in words, I feel like I do try to I want to make sure I say it the right way. I don't know if how to communicate what I'm feeling, so I'm just gonna write it creatively, and I use creative language to try to express. And then once I see it, I'm like, okay, I can reframe this so it makes more sense. Right. Not using poetry.
Oh, okay. You see, I write completely differently, because every song, pretty much, for the most part, every song I've ever written, I've never written down.
You just sung it and played it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Just
recorded it.
Like even how I write music, I will say a line, I'll think in my head, and I never write my music down.
You never write your music down?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh.
It's all just either in my head, and then I'll record it on voice memos or something like that. Right. But I think out of all the songs I've written a good amount of songs. Probably maybe 5 I've written down. Yeah. Yeah. Out of 100, Dang. Of different songs that I've come up with, even if they're just half songs or not, not full songs or whatever. But for the most part, that's how my brain processes stuff. I remember, with my ex-girlfriend, it's she sang, and writing with her was so annoying. She's a great girl, she's listening, but I don't know why she'd be listening.
You never know.
Yeah, maybe she just wanted to hear my voice. Anyway, never mind. Aaron, stop. See, this is where it comes out, man. I'm not thinking.
This is one of those other situations I was talking about.
This is one of those. Yeah. But the thing is, I don't care. It's authentic. And so it's hey, if you're listening, can you really be mad with me? Nah. Can you blame me? But it was a struggle. I remember we tried to write some songs together. Yeah. And the way that I do it is just oh no, why would we write it? No, we don't need to fix that or whatever, because it's almost I put thoughts together, and in my mind I'm that'd be good, and then I just there it is, Yeah. And then if I do tweak things, it'll come as I'm playing the song. So I'll play the same verse over and over again, I'm like, oh, actually, this word fits better. So it's all in my head what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah,
so I don't normally need to see. Now, it's different with different types of music that I'm writing. So that's more like maybe simplistic verses or worship songs that I'm writing. But it, like, say when I did a spoken word piece for our Easter services, that stuff I need to write down because that's like a whole lot of words. But I still hear it up top. Like I'll still hear the music flow or like, you know, be listening to it and then like be hearing the rhythm of it, everything up there.
But you'll still write it down.
But I'll have to write it down because it's like, you know, blood trickles down the hair of the one man who cared enough to stand above the faults of men and cleanse them from all sin. You know what I mean? Like it's like, it's too many words to, you know, I don't know why I started with blood.
Commit to memory.
Yeah, it's too many words to like actually think of just in my head. I actually need to write those down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a balance to both of those things, you know?
Yeah, I've had to grow a lot in that for sure. I used to be super reserved when it came to freestyle kind of stuff or having no structure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I felt super unsafe, not comfortable at all.
Right.
And I've had to grow in that a lot and just get comfortable not having structure and being a bit more free and allowing space. I think that's why I kind of talked about having space because I had to learn how to accept space. Just let it be.
Right. Yeah, I used to with my messages that I would write, I used to get so worried about the space as well. Like it was always like, I'd rather have too much information in my sermon and go long than go short. I don't know what it was, but going short seemed like a miss, you know? It's like I didn't come fully prepared or like I wasn't fully ready maybe or something like that. Or I just didn't want there to be any awkward space. Like I love filling space. So at the same time it was that, you know, kind of fear. And I remember for certain events that we'd have at church that are longer, like we have like these Seek nights, which are longer, you know, worship experiences. And I basically had an hour and a half, you know, it's like we have 30 minutes of worship and then like they throw you up there and they're like, you got an hour and a half to do whatever,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is so much space, you know,
a lot of space.
That's a lot of space to fill, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of content to produce. And I found myself like, you know, coming up with more and more and more and more and more. But even in those moments, usually after I get all of the more, and I write down all this stuff to like fill the space, once I actually get up there, I usually forget about most of it.
Right.
And then I just flow. Like it's a safety net for me, but I'll spend 30 minutes of that time literally just talking about stuff that's in my heart. Like Gandhi was talking about, you know, literally just talking about stuff that I've been learning or that God's put on my heart or I feel like the Spirit is saying or whatever. And then that space ends up being filled. I think it's like a distrust thing, you know what I mean, of what's inside of us as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I wonder why we try to fill the space. You know, if it's given to us, why do we feel we need to try to fill the space? That's one of the things that I've had to learn often is don't just try to fill the space. Like if the space is okay, if you don't need to fill the space or if you don't have something to fill the space with,
right,
don't try to fill the space. Because the space being filled is not the priority. It's like bring what you can bring, and if there's space, that's okay.
Right.
There was somebody who was speaking at youth for the youth at our church a long time ago. And at the time, I was kind of helping like oversee some things on the weekends.
I think I know what you're
what I'm talking about. And it was his first time going to speak for the youth, and he had his notes, and he went up there, and he got up like the worship, everything finished. He started, and then like 10 minutes later, he was done. And he called up the worship team, and they're like, "Wait, what the?" And they were not expecting it at all. And then he came after a service, and I was talking to him, and he felt super discouraged. He felt like he didn't prepare enough, felt like he didn't have enough time to like, you know, he didn't know what to do with the rest of the time, and he didn't feel like he put enough into it. And but it was something that he spent a lot of time on. He felt like he had put a lot of time into it, but when he got up there, he basically just read his notes, and then he was done.
Right.
And I just encouraged him. I tried encouraging him, and it's like picking him up a little bit, and then just told him to be himself, you know, like go up there, use the notes, but don't be afraid to be himself. Like bring what he has to bring. Don't just speak the notes, but bring himself to what he's doing. And then he went up there the next service and he loved it. He like had a blast and he was totally having fun, and he filled up all the space that was allotted to him. You know, he used the time that he was given, and it didn't feel like he was trying just to make things up. He was actually just being authentic.
Right.
And
right.
Hey, this is the time I have. I'm going to be me and try to get these points across to these students and see what I can do to help them grab these things, you know? So he had fun up there. And when he came back, he was like, I'm born for this. I needed to do this every week.
What a shift.
Yeah. Cause before he was
What
like,
a
I don't
shift.
think I can do this. Like, I'm not a preacher.
Right.
This is not, I can't do this thing. And then he came up afterwards, after just being okay with being himself.
Right.
You know,
right.
He gave himself permission to be himself. And he just did that. And after that, he was like, this is what I was born for. Maybe it was preaching, maybe it wasn't, but we're definitely born for authenticity.
Right. And yeah, exactly. Maybe he wasn't specifically talking about, I was born to preach to youth students,
Yeah, but that is what he was thinking of because of the context.
Right.
And that could still be true. But
there's a moment where, and I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, I've spoken at this point, a lot of messages. Now that I think about it, I mean, I speak usually at least twice a week,
right.
Yeah. Which is, when you've been doing it for, I don't know, what, a year and a half now, or 2 years now for the middle school, and sometimes I was preaching 5 times a week.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like absolutely wild. So I mean, I don't have a huge thing. I know that some preachers, when you've been preaching every weekend, 3
for like
services,
50 years.
Yeah, exactly. For 50 years, you got me beat. I'm only 26. Give me a break, but there's this moment where you just step into flow. We've talked about flow a little bit as far as like being present, but when you're talking to somebody and then you just step into like this space, especially with speaking to people, when you're able to grab them, and you're able to communicate with them, and then you can feel it. It's just and it's almost like you and the people that you're talking to, you get in sync with them.
Yeah.
And almost they're moving with you, and they're hearing as you're hearing, and you know what I mean? Like they're feeling as you're feeling, and it's like this beautiful, effortless experience, and actually what's interesting is that, I go to counseling twice a month, and there's times where I don't feel in flow at all. Like I'm in my head, hardcore in my head. And I remember telling my counselor about like this moment where I had, and it was actually that Seek night or for Seek week, where I filled that hour and a half like it was nothing. Like it was like crazy. It was like the Spirit of God came over me, and like this flow came over me, and the audience, the congregation kind of synced with me. I spoke for probably like an hour and 10 minutes and then had ministry time for 20 minutes. I filled the entire space, but it didn't feel dead. It felt beautiful. People were laughing, crying, dancing. So many people came and responded to the message. It was just this beautiful moment that I was actually really proud of, and I was telling him about it. And he was talking to me about like that is who you are. You know what I mean? Like to live in that space of flow, to step into that, like what if you actually took that into everyday life?
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't really think about it like that. Like, oh man, like it, and he said to be reminded of that, you know what I mean? Or at least I took it like that, where it's like, I could be reminded of that moment. And what I would do every time I felt like out of the moment is I would actually watch some of that message where I was in flow, and then see that's who I am. You know what I mean? Like I'm like free, and I'm full, and I'm light, and I'm bringing the word, and I'm calling people into like what they're made for, and I'm calling out people and bringing love and bringing Jesus, and it kind of inspires me back to like, that was so good. That there was such a moment of this flow, of this breakthrough for me. I think we can bring that into life, like, because there was this authenticity, like you said, created this flow, this relationship aspect where people were they had buy-in. Like it was basically like you could say anything and they would follow you, which is a responsibility.
Oh, for sure.
Which is a huge responsibility, and it goes beyond, I think, just being animated. Yeah. Right? It goes beyond just being a good communicator. I think there's something with our words, something with the way that we talk, something with our heart posture and our authenticity that is a connecting point for people, which is crazy. Yeah.
I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about how conversations with people, we can get in kind of like a flow state, like the state where we feel like super connected in this conversation, and there's all this like, kind
of like this one. We're not talking about.
Well, we're just you're in a
Right.
place of authenticity where when both people have their walls down, the guards aren't up, and both people are just fully there, present in the conversation,
Right.
being authentic, allowing themselves to come to the forefront and to receive the other person, and then that one other person be able to fully communicate what they feel is inside of them. Just that wholeness that happens, and that freedom that happens, and that there's such a healthy growth and healthy connection that takes place in those kinds of authentic communication moments.
Right.
Even if it's a hard conversation, the hard conversations often, I think a lot of times the conversations that we think we need to avoid in order to be safe or be well or to continue to go on are the ones that we really need to have.
Right.
Because when we have those hard conversations, they inevitably almost always require authenticity. And it's that authenticity in our communication that helps us feel full, because then we're fully present, right? We're
Right.
fully there. I'm not trying to hide myself anymore.
Right.
I'm not trying to be something else. I'm fully showing up in this conversation, fully showing up in the relationship. And I was going to ask, whenever you have that experience, so when you think about that experience that you had when you're speaking and being in that flow state, how do you bring that into your everyday life? Or what is that like, trying to bring it into your everyday life?
Right. I mean, and I think the thing is, there is no formula really for it. It's a lot of different factors. I think, I think flow is like it's like a full state where it's just like your ego hides. Where it's like you can't fully be present with somebody when your ego is in the way, or fully
Right.
speak and communicate in authenticity, whether you're trying to impress them or be like somebody else or some other preacher, some other person, or get them to be like you or get them to believe a certain thing, whatever it is that the ego wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ego is craving from that interaction, right? There has to be a healthy letting go of those things. And I think it takes time. Like, there's certain things. I think it was really powerful for me because when I was in high school, I did not go through a day without caring what somebody thought. Right? Mm-hmm. And so when I met Jesus, there was, and this is something that I just haven't had to struggle with too much, is since I met Jesus, really, it was like a deliverance for me.
Wow.
Like a real deliverance from like the fear of man. It's to some extent, as far as like what they care about me or like trying to present some facade of myself.
Right. Yeah.
And that became extremely important to me. And it was such a shift for me when I met Jesus to be my authentic self, that when I got into senior year of high school, and this is often how it goes, as soon as you let go, you start getting everything that you wanted when you were insecure, that you were trying to hold on to. So I stopped caring what people thought about me. I was authentic. And then I started being everything that I wanted to be when I was trying so hard to be that, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
And so I naturally started getting this flow with people. And then because that was happening, I created an actual belief that I didn't need to impress anybody, or that I literally could say anything and I'd still be loved, but you could say it with like a light spirit and like be completely yourself, because I'm not tied to you in any way. And
Wow.
because
That's good.
Yeah. And because when you actually live not tied to people, they'll love you.
Yeah.
It's like Gladiator. We watched Gladiator
Yes.
last week, and then there's the contrast between Commodus, who's like the up and coming, what is he? The emperor.
He's the emperor.
emperor, and he kills his father to get the position. And all he wants is for the people to love him.
That's all that's all he wanted from his father too.
And so
From
really
everybody.
it's this whole father thing where it's like he's trying to seek from everybody what he needed from his father, and he wants people to love him so much. And because of that deep need for people to love him, people hate him because he makes decisions out of this need and this.
And he doesn't love anybody else well at all.
No, because he's a sucker. He's a vacuum.
Everything is about him.
Everything's about him. And then you have Maximus, who's like actually a man of the people because he doesn't care about what the people think about him, right? He's a man that just cares about his family, and his family was killed, right? And he's a man that wants to protect other people and like care for other people. He's like a man of valor, right? He has this like authority, this power. And because he's not afraid of death or a social death, like I remember like that scene where he like basically slaughters all of the people in the ring, and then everyone's like, "You were supposed to die," and he's like, "Are you not entertained? Is this not what you came for?" It's almost like this realization of like, no matter what I do, you know what I mean? You're gonna have your own opinions anyway. I don't even care.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like this is what you came for, to see like this sport. And now you didn't get what you want, so like screw what you want, But then they love him for it. Right. And he does everything opposite of what people want him to do. And because of that, the people are just like that wild heart, that authentic heart, right? They gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
So you have Commodus who wants the love of the people and doesn't get it. And then Maximus, who doesn't really care about the love of people, but loves people.
Right.
And he gets the respect.
Yeah.
And he gets the honor. Right. And so I think there was a spiritual shift for me in high school where my honor became about honoring God, honoring what I valued. And I think that's what Maximus had. He had values.
Right. He stood for his values.
And he stood for his values above standing for, politics or the people or, or like just people's
did do it for the people too.
He did do it for the
that was
people,
part of the things that he cared about. He actually cared about the people.
Right.
He wasn't the emperor, but he actually cared about the people. He cared about his men that he was leading. He cared about the people of Rome, and that's like his last dying wish was to do what the last Caesar really wanted to do, which was give people the power again.
Right.
And to get rid of the political structure that was actually taken away from the people. And this, I didn't remember what we were saying before we brought up Gladiator, but the concept of wanting something so much
that you lose it,
that we're losing it, and then against being okay not having it, and that's what actually gets you it. Right. And I said this like the youth students a while ago, but loving for wholeness, loving for wholeness versus loving from wholeness.
Right.
Like so many times we're trying to get love so we can feel complete, and in the process we're not loving anybody.
No,
because we're trying to take things from people. Right. All the time, and I love the way that you said it. The attachment, like you're not attached to anybody. Yeah. Right. You don't need that tied to them. You're not tied to them. There's not something that is, that's making you stay connected to that person. Therefore, everything you do needs to make sure you keep that connection going. Right. You're okay with separating yourself from that person, and you can survive without them. But doing that allows you to actually love them, because now you're not trying to get something from them. Right. Because now you can give something to them. And when we give something to people, when we love people well, they love us. They tend to love us back. Yes. Yeah. And we get stuck in cycles of trying to be loved that we don't love well. And so we don't feel the love, because it's hard to love somebody who's not loving you. Yeah. Right. It's hard. The hardest people to love are the people who need it the most. Right. But it's so hard to love them because a lot of people are like, want to stay away from them because they think they're selfish, or they make everything about them. Right. But really, those are the people those of us who need it the most. Right. We're doing that because we need love. But as soon as we get to a point where we can just love someone else and focus on loving them and not needing it from them, that's when we can actually love well. Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I think, one of my favorite pastors, Dan, he says this all the time. He says, most of the time when we're saying I love you to somebody, we're just saying I need you. And I think that's really powerful, and it affects everything. When you say you love somebody and you're really saying I need you, you're almost sucking love out of the equation, Right. So I talked about it too in one of my last sermons, just like
just like love, it inspires a response, but it doesn't require one. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like to actually love somebody is to not need them to respond to you, right? But me loving you will inspire what I'm looking for.
Inspire a response.
Will inspire a response. So it's the same thing with relationships and being around people, or just being your authentic self. You know, you can't have authenticity if you're needing somebody else to validate who you are, because then you're not actually being, you can only be your authentic self. You know what I mean? You can't be everybody else's authentic self that they want you to be, you know? And so that affects everything, you know, because then you're drawing from people. I don't really know how it works exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people know how it works.
I don't really know how it works, but I think it is a divine wisdom, you know, to live so free from people that you can love them, or to live so free from people that you can encourage them, that you can teach them, that, you know, it makes everything better.
Or that you can learn from them.
You can learn from them.
Sometimes we don't want to learn. We don't learn from somebody because we're trying to prove that we know more than them already.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Which is it's just the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like we were needing validation. Mm-hmm. I need to know that I know more than you. Mm-hmm. So what I have to learn from you. You can't teach me anything.
Right.
It's like this place and it so often cuts off relationships, cuts off connection and intimacy whenever we are needing to be validated some way. Mm-hmm. Cause then we're trying to match whatever we think that equates to.
Right.
You know, when we can just accept, if we could just accept where we're at and focus on someone else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it seems super simple, but it's so hard sometimes.
Right.
To stop thinking about ourselves and love somebody.
Right.
It's like, it's one of the simplest things, but it's so difficult because we are in the middle of feeling a need for something.
Right.
You know? But if we can stop thinking about ourselves and just love somebody, that's when authenticity comes forward. You know, we start being authentic because we're not worried about getting something from somebody or what they're going to think of us or how they're going to respond. We just want to love them.
Right.
And we do that the best we can. And we'll be acting from a place of authenticity.
Right. Yeah. It's a beautiful, I think it's so near and dear to my heart because I think it's just the most beautiful thing ever. It's what Jesus said. He's like, whoever tries to hold on to his life will lose it. Mm-hmm. But whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. You know? And it's like in faith, that's the aspect, but then that I guess law, that spiritual law makes its way into every single aspect, you know?
Yeah. It transcends just.
Yeah. As soon as you let go of the need for people to approve of you, you start feeling that people are proud of you. You know? Mm-hmm. As soon as you let go of the need for people to love you, people start loving you, or the need to be popular. Like that's what happened. I became like a very popular guy at school, you know, in high school, because I didn't care if I was popular.
Right. Yeah.
But it wasn't like I'm pretending like I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I actually don't care. Like I didn't even know it, you know, I really didn't even know it. But then like some of my friends, even later on, they'd be like, dude, like, you know, you're the man, or like everyone's been like talking about this or what. I'm like, what? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Because it was actually, you know, and I think that's why Jesus became so famous too, because it's almost like he never even wanted people to know about him. It's so weird.
Right. He's always like, don't tell anybody that I did this.
Yeah. He would heal somebody and then say, don't tell anybody. You know, if he was trying to build a ministry for himself or build a name for himself, create a name for himself, isn't that what you would want to do? Make sure you have a good social media following, and hey, make sure you follow me on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like,
give me a follow and a like.
Yeah, give me a follow and a
Share.
like. Make sure you subscribe.
Hit that share button.
Hit that share button. Yeah. Jesus in the modern age. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But and then he became all the more famous. right?
Yeah.
And
Over and over again.
over and over and over and over again. And I think that's where the authority lies, is in that authenticity, in that, he didn't need people. And it's something else, Dan Moore talks about. It's like, can you imagine if Jesus needed people to love him, he would have never gone to the cross. He would have been on the cross and been like, why am I even here? These people don't, they call me a demon and they reject me. And
None of my followers are even here right now.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Yeah. All of my
John and my
disciples are
mom.
gone except for John, and he's trying to be the greatest in the kingdom. You know what I mean? And like, they're all doing things wrong. And like, I've loved them over and over and over again. I forgive them and they don't even care. And, if he needed that response from them, he would have never done it.
Mm-hmm.
But love has this way of transcending, all of those surface things, maybe not surface things, but, yeah, I don't know. It has this way of transcending that need, and then, yeah, as soon as but it has to come through, I think, Jesus's love as well. Because that's what really hit me, right? It's like, well, I don't need these people's love anymore because I've found a love. I've found a love that's way better, Mm-hmm. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy this love, And then now, because I'm already filled with love from a source that won't fail or that's constant, then I can love other people. And I'm not tied to other people because I'm tied to another, So I'm kind of like divorced from needing all of that from other people,
Yeah, when we find our satisfaction in God, it's like there's nothing else we need. Mm-hmm. If we can be fully satisfied in our relationship with Jesus, then there's no telling how well we can love somebody, love people, love those around us.
Right. And I haven't achieved that. I think I find my satisfaction most often through Jesus, and, we sing kind of those songs. It's like, you satisfy my soul. You know what I mean? I just want you. And I have to be honest with myself. It's like, sometimes I don't,
sometimes I want some hot Cheetos.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to binge watch to get over this. You know what I mean? Like, I need to hang out with my honey, but, not that those things are bad,
but there are times for sure where I find myself, getting caught up trying to win someone's approval, or or like getting caught up trying to like wondering what somebody else is thinking about me. If like, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe they think this would be good. Mm-hmm. And not that I shouldn't be mindful of certain people's views, but I shouldn't be trying to get my approval or sense of satisfaction from them, right? Whether or not they approve of me shouldn't change how satisfied I am with my life. Mm-mm. Because if it is, I'm going to start making some poor decisions.
Right.
And I'm going to start making some bad sacrifices, right? I'm going to start sacrificing things that actually matter. Right. I'll start sacrificing the things that are actually important. And I don't want to be living that way. So the more that I can just find my satisfaction in Jesus and be whole and complete without anybody else, the more I'll be able to love well, the more I'll be able to make good, full, wholehearted decisions towards life and health and godliness. And that's the direction I want to move, but it's not always the place I find myself.
Right. Yeah, totally. I think I find that in relationships a lot, where, I've definitely grown out of it a lot, but just noticing myself, in intimate relationships, or like girlfriend boyfriend stuff. I know what they're called. That my peace would be in the other person's hand. And if I had a fear about the relationship or a fear about them, it would go into this whole weird cycle of like, I don't know, oh, what if I'm with them and I don't like this about them? Or what if this doesn't work out? Or what if I'm not happy in the relationship? And relationships make us happy, and we need relationships, and we want healthy relationships, right?
Yeah.
But there's an aspect to even thinking that thought that's kind of selfish in a way, where it's like, what if in the future I'm not happy in this relationship? Why would this be my source of happiness? There is an aspect to being in a garbage relationship,
right? Yeah,
and it having a toll on you, like I mean, Proverbs says it best. It's like a nagging wife is like dripping water, or a husband, is like dripping water. It's bad, but But I think even in that, like, why is my peace in somebody else's hand? Or why is my acceptance in somebody else's hand? Like, if I don't take responsibility for that, or if I don't have that in God's hands, you know what I mean? Like, who's to say I won't put that in every situation that I go through, and I won't be like basically dragged around, rope tied, you know, just pulled by life and by relationships and by people all the time. And that's what, you know, coming back to Gladiator, that's what Commodus was. He was like, he put his thumb up, they hated him. He put his thumb down, you know, it's a kill, they hated him. You know what I mean? Like, he accepts Maximus, they hate him. He pushes Maximus away, they hate him. You know, he fights Maximus, they hate him. He killed, you know, whatever he would do, they would hate him, you know? So it was like,
and he kept just trying to do what they wanted him to do.
Right.
But Maximus just did what he thought was right.
Exactly.
And everybody loved that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think there's a beautiful aspect of that, of living into those things, you know? And then because of that, you know, coming back to the flow thing that we were talking about, that's how, you know, you can live life in flow in relationships, you know?
Yeah.
Is learning to let go of people's approval, learning to let go of needing other people to validate, you know, your existence, you know, your heart, your and being known. I think that's a huge one too, is I'm known by God, so I don't really need to explain myself all too much, you know? Jesus, again, this guy hardly ever explained himself. He was like the most confident dude ever. He's like, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And then he's like, silence.
And they're like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, this guy's insane, you know? Because he was known. And so I think something funny that I've realized is we often try and explain ourselves to people when we don't want them to get the wrong idea, or we already don't feel known.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
You know, it's one of those moments where it's like, well, you know what I mean by that? Or like, I didn't mean to say this. Or like, you know what I mean? They kind of backtrack on their words. It's like, no, I didn't think that, you know? But if I don't have a relationship with you, you know what I mean? Or if I don't know that I'm known by you or whatever, I will constantly be justifying the things that I say.
Right.
You know? If I say some crazy philosophical or theological stance that's heretical, Darryl will probably be like, he doesn't really think that, you know? You know? For the most part, I wouldn't be like, well, you know what I mean, Darryl. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, because I know that you know my heart, and I'm not trying to be like a heretic or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And I think in the same light, it's like, I don't need to explain myself. It's almost a letting go of people that aren't close to me, more so, you know, the people in the world who don't understand, because it's like some things that I say, you know, everybody's going to get the wrong idea anyway, you know? And so, and I'm known, and my heart's known, and so I'm good. And if I'm known by God and I'm right with God, then I'm good, you know? And that probably means that I won't be good with people, which is something that I'm working on, being not good with more people.
Wait, what?
I'm looking to cause more division.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Yeah,
I thought I didn't have to explain myself.
One of my big
You totally just ruined my point.
One of my biggest fears used to be being misunderstood. And that's like how I captured that fear, was like, I knew that I was afraid of being misunderstood. And I remember telling my brother that, my older brother, he was like, whoa, I feel bad for you, bro. I was like, why? He's like, because how are you ever going to know if people understand you or not? And, you know, people misunderstand people all the time.
Right.
And I was like, shoot, I got a problem.
Dang.
I was like, I can't let this control me, you know? I can't be afraid of communicating because I'm afraid of somebody misunderstanding what I'm going to say.
Right.
I just need to communicate the best that I know how, and trust that they'll hear my heart or ask me a question if they don't get it. Right. And not to be afraid that, oh my gosh, everyone's misunderstanding what I'm saying. So I need to keep explaining myself, or I just need to stop talking. Right. And that was a big fear of mine for a long time. Right. And I just was like, I had to get over that and just be authentic.
I got a funny story. Abby, when we first started dating, she thought that I said I was gay.
While you were dating?
Yeah, well, when we first started talking to each other, and like completely misunderstood what I was saying.
Wow.
And so just thought to herself like, oh, like I guess we could still hang out and stuff. But
Be friends. He's cool.
Be friends. Like he's a
fun
cool guy and stuff. But she thought I was saying I was gay.
Wow.
I was like, and so, but it worked out.
Man,
We're
was she
together,
surprised?
but even the fear of being misunderstood, it's like that is definitely not what I was trying to say. Like I really liked her, like
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she totally got something wrong out of something that I was saying, but. that could have possibly sabotaged her wanting to hang out with me.
Oh my gosh.
But it worked out, and now we're together, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But even those things, like understanding that God will work out even the details of being misunderstood. I think that's an important thing to like let go of those things, to know I'm not always going to be misunderstood, and to be honest, a lot of things I've done in my life have sabotaged probably a lot of opportunities that I have now. A lot of things that I've said that could have been misconstrued or wrong. Like the favor of the Lord is, like there's grace for a lot of those things, like, so you can still be your authentic self. You probably say some messed up things sometimes, as long as you apologize and make sure that you're right with people and honor people and come back to those things and you seek to grow. You're going to be all right.
Right.
You're going to be all right. And I think the more that we let go, the easier it gets to let go,
Mm-hmm.
So the more we actually practice letting go of other people's opinions, doing things contrary to what people want us to do. I'm not saying like blatant disregard for sound advice or something, but I'm saying letting go of people's like, ideas of what we should be doing or whatever. The more that we practice that in our lives, even our own standards or whatever, the easier it gets, to live actually carefree, no worries, be happy. It's like I'm actually free from people now.
Yeah. Not intentionally going against what people want.
Right.
But to intentionally go for what you believe in.
That's
to
good.
Intentionally do what you think is important.
Right.
To intentionally stand for what you think is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's, I think what you said is true. The more that we do that, the more that we practice that, the easier it becomes.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of flow, that wasn't what we were going to talk about.
No, but it was good.
That was good, man. That was 56 minutes of spontaneous glory. What are you talking about, Darryl? You don't need to have anything written.
Spontaneous glory.
Spontaneous glory. The name of my future church.
Band name in high school.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure out what to call this episode, but we're so grateful that you joined us.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation.
Yeah, talking about open space and living free from other people's expectations, loving people instead of needing them. All good things. Yeah, authenticity. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us on our podcast. Anything to say, Darryl?
We love you. Live your best authentic self. Don't let nothing stop you from being you.
Come on now.
That's all.
That's all. Okay. Make sure to follow us.
Love God and do whatever.
Yes. Augustine. Thank you, Augustine. Follow us. Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, TikTok, all of the above. You know what I'm saying? Like our videos. I know we said Jesus didn't do this, but but make sure you like and comment and stuff. Follow us. Yeah. Seriously, follow us, please. We're desperate. I'm kidding. We don't need you, but we love you.
We're not tied to you.
We're not tied. I'm not tied to you, all insecure about it. All right. Peace out, guys. Much love. See you next week on Your Brain On. God.